Hey, welcome to this week's episode. This week, I got a chance to catch up with Chad Trautvetter. Chad's an editor and wears many, many hats at AIN Publications. And he's always been really, really great about helping us tell the stories of some of the smaller and medium-sized aviation companies. People feel like the big companies get all of the attention at the shows and all of that. And Chad goes way out of his way to make sure that we're able to tell the more interesting stories, or what I think are the more interesting stories, of some of the startups and innovators and family-owned companies and small and medium-sized privately owned and other types of companies in the industry. So AIN is a trade publishing company producing a daily business aviation newsletter, the AINalerts, which comes in your email. The monthly print publication, AIN, which comes in your mailbox. Twice weekly Business Jet Traveler Waypoints newsletters, Business Jet Traveler Buyer's Guide in print, the weekly FutureFlight newsletter, and the print and digital issues, the dailies, at Heli-Expo, EBACE, NBAA, MEBAA, airshows, Singapore, Farnborough, Paris, Dubai, all over the place. So it was really great to have a chance to sit down with Chad. This is a season where he's not traveling at the moment, so it was nice to spend a little bit of time catching up and talking about how aviation companies can get more publicity, especially with those trade show dailies during the trade shows. So we'll dive in. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Chad reached out to me when he found out that we were doing the trade show workshop and wanted to share some information. And of course, the timing didn't work out at that time. So we're recording this as a supplement to our trade show workshop and also as a podcast episode. So let's dive right in. Yeah, I just wanted to get your take on, and of course, we've always had a great relationship, I think, and, the symbiosis between marketing and media is one that doesn't have to be antagonistic. And I think you're a fantastic example of that, we're able to work together sometimes to get those stories out.
Yeah, well, actually, it's a lot of times it's the marketing person who comes to us and says, hey, this company has a new product or have a new way of doing things. Or, they're going to be starting to do this. They didn't do this before, and now they're going to start to do this. Are you interested in doing a story? And we're always looking for news. So, of course, we say yes most of the time. I mean, sometimes it's just they're coming to us with, oh, hey, it's our 8th anniversary. And it's like, 8th anniversary, like, that's kind of an odd one. Maybe 10, maybe 25, something milestone. Or they'll come to us with, hey, this company is like really interesting, and it's like they'll just give us a background of the company, but not really tell us what's interesting. Interesting
not really
about the
news.
Company. So
right.
Yeah, we kind of tend to go for news. And I guess the whole context we're trying to look at here is, we have a lot of different publications. So just before we start diving into just the show issues, we do a lot of things. So I'm in charge of the daily newsletter. So that's our AINalerts newsletter. It's business aviation. It's published weekdays, and then we also have a weekly digest now. And that kind of features more like longer stories, and then also we highlight some of our stories from our Business Jet Traveler magazine and also from our FutureFlight publication. So we do have so we have the AIN media group. Then we have Aviation International News, which is our monthly print publication. So Alerts is our daily newsletter, as I said. We also have a weekly FutureFlight newsletter and website that goes with that. That's to cover all the new electric eVTOLs, all that stuff, and hydrogen and all the new stuff that's coming up. And then we also have Business Jet Traveler. And the simplest way we explain what Business Jet Traveler, how is it different from AIN? So when you walk up the steps of a jet, the AIN reader will turn left, and the BJT reader will turn right.
We'll turn right.
So
Exactly.
It's meant for the business jet user.
Yeah.
And it covers a lot of the, more, it just covers charter fractional, like, in more general terms. It's written for people who may not be as aviation oriented as everybody else in the industry.
Yeah.
And it has just more things like, it'll have stories about traveling here or there and things you can do there.
Right.
And then also we have our video editor actually formerly worked for an auto magazine. He did our video, so he'll go and get one of the newer luxury cars, and he'll do a review of that too. So
yeah,
of course he'll do a print and a video segment. So it's nice to have both. So and then we also have our show issues. So we publish on site at Heli-Expo.
Mm-hmm.
We also publish on site at EBACE and NBAA. In the past, we have done AIN-BACE. There hasn't been an AIN-BACE show for since 2019, so it's been about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing AIN-BACE issues on site, and it's just the attendance wasn't there to support doing a print issue there. We still do digital coverage there, and we will actually. It's next month. Is that next month? No, it's August. We're always working a month ahead. So
right. Well, it's practically July, so August is next month.
Yeah. So we'll have a team at AIN-BACE too. We just won't be doing print issues there. We also do MEBAA, which is every other year, and then we do 2 international air shows each year. This year, which is Paris. I just got back from Paris last week, Paris Air Show, and the Dubai Air Show in November. And then next year is Singapore in February, and Farnborough Air Show in July.
Right.
So the international air shows, they're every 2 years, and they just alternate.
Right. Okay. Well, I think, the people that listen to this podcast are going to be very, very interested in hearing about the process, really, of those show dailies, especially for the American shows. The HAI, the NBAA, the others that happen in North America. And I know those are like the biggest shows and, the most busy newsrooms and the most challenging news environments, really. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the process and the cycle for those.
So actually, don't leave out the Paris Air Show or Farnborough, because there was a couple hundred, I think 500 or 600 U.S. companies at Paris.
Yeah.
And many of them, actually, as I was going through the convention center halls, many of them are small and medium size companies. They're not
really.
There's big companies, but there's plenty of small companies that. Some of them were doing rivets and ball bearings. I mean, it gets really granular at the Paris Air Show, but a lot of the suppliers who you don't normally hear of are actually at these shows. They're trying to appeal to, the Boeings and Airbuses and other OEMs.
Right.
But there was plenty of non-suppliers, like non-supplying companies that were there too. We saw some FBOs there. A lot of companies from Kansas, obviously, for obvious reasons.
There
was even I live in Florida. There was a block of Florida companies, Alabama, Ohio. So there was a lot of different companies there. So let's not forget about those. But just in general, so we do international air shows. We do 4 print dailies, Monday through Thursday. All the rest of the shows, we do 3 print dailies. So like at NBA, we'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which are what we call the live days of the show.
Right. The big days of, yeah.
Yeah, what's when everybody's there to see the show. Although the show actually starts and on Sunday or Monday in some circumstances with some of the seminars they have before, or in our case, Monday at NBAA and also at EBACE is Media Day. So that's where we get a lot of our on-site news. It's a pretty active day for us. But we don't start at the show. We start many months before, and we're here at the end of July or end of June. Sorry.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. You're going to scare me.
So here we are at the end of June. I just got back from the Paris Air Show. I edit we wear many hats here. So I also edit the NBA and EBACE issues. And I have already started assigning stories for what we call preprint because we can't do the size of issues that we publish on site. They're just impossible to do the whole thing overnight. Yeah. So we start months in advance, usually 3 or 4 months before the show. And here we are, just shy of just a little less than 4 months from NBAA. And I've already assigned 5 stories. There's actually 3 FBO stories, one for cabin humidification, and then also another for JetNet, because we have a writer visiting them while he's on vacation. So how do we, get these stories? Basically, it's a lot of pleading and begging from companies. We realize that they may not have news yet, but we look for what we call evergreen stories.
Yeah.
So things that will hold, months down the line. So maybe a story about, an aircraft broker wants to talk about the general mood of the market, what he's seeing, what the inventory is doing, and things like that. So it doesn't have to be hard news. It just has to be something that's interesting and newsy-ish. Or some company just started, maybe they just maybe they were doing the airline in military segments and just decided to go into civil, and now they're doing business aircraft. So that's, we could do a story about how they're breaking into the market and what their plan is, what their short-term goals, what their long-term goals are, and things like that.
Right. So how they're responding to market forces, how they are adapting maybe to things that are of interest to a larger audience, and maybe not like with a date news stories, but trend news stories, I guess.
Right. And some companies know what they're going to be doing for the next couple of months, and some already know what they're going to be announcing in NBA. They just don't have anything, they don't have any press releases written yet. So for a lot of those companies, what will happen is we'll set up interviews ahead of time. The communications people will actually listen in on these calls. They normally do anyway. Just, they put a leash on people.
Right.
But very often they're more or less taking notes because we ask a lot of questions and we get a lot of information, and then they take that and they can start writing the press release and adding in their quotes and things like that they like to do. So the only restriction for any company, though, is we look for exhibitors at these shows.
Yeah. So
if you're not exhibiting, don't pitch us for the show, but we're still interested in your news all the time. Yeah. I mean, we have plenty of vehicles year round. It doesn't have to be for the show. And I would actually advise against a non-exhibiting company from trying to release news during like a show. It's just
the most challenging time.
Yeah, especially at NBA, the news volume is just overwhelming. We get more releases than we can handle. And I can tell you that if, when we're in show mode, the releases that come from non-exhibiting companies are our lowest priority at that point.
Yeah, they go to the bottom of the pile.
Right. So
sure that pile never gets gone through. So,
well, I mean, we'll go through it eventually, and hopefully we'll catch it. Things fall through the cracks. We get a lot of volume of email, so it's hard to keep up with everything. And we'll try to go back and find stuff that we missed. And I mean, we've missed what I would consider big news before, just because of the volume. Like it won NBA. I think it might have actually been last year. Dassault announced that they were opening up a new customer support center, in Melbourne, Florida, and it just there was just so much going on. We just all missed it, and didn't actually pick it up until a couple months later when we realized when we were just kind of sifting through their releases on their site that, oh, hey, this is different. We didn't see this one. So, so it's just, even from the big OEMs, we'll miss stuff. It's just inevitable, because it's just the volume is just, especially NBA, it's just really, really hard to keep up with.
Right. And challenging. So what
so,
can marketing people do to make your life easier?
Well, if they have ideas, they are more than welcome to contact me. Mm-hmm. Email, telephone, story pitches are always good. They may say, oh, we're not ready yet, but in 2 months we'll be ready. Yeah. So, and actually, we're at enough time before NBA that 2 months is not that big of a deal. As we get closer to the show, the preprint section starts to fill up, and then we go into what we call like anything. So, like mid to late September is when we start putting all this copy on pages. Yeah. And then we start slotting it in for, we have 3 issues, so we have to kind of mix. Day 1 has most of the preprint. Day 2 has a little bit less, and then day 3 has usually significantly less. It's just that everything kind of tails off on day 3. So that said, we do have about 16 to 24 editorial pages to do on site, which is a lot. Yeah. So what we'll do is also we'll do what we call mid-print, which is stories done closer to the show but didn't quite make preprint, but we'll write them up before we get to the show, and then we'll place those on some of those live pages during the show. Right.
And then during the show, it sounds like all you really have time for is filling in some pictures and other things to
Nope. No, we write a lot. We write a large amount of stuff at the show. So we have anywhere between 5 and 7 writers. I think at Paris we had 7. Because of the longer distances to get to press conferences there. I was walking almost to get to on the Monday of the show. I had to go to 4 different press conferences and we go out and we come back. I was walking almost a kilometer each way.
Oh, so wow.
It was taking me about round trip was about 30 to 35 minutes to get out and back.
Do you use a pedometer?
I do have, my watch was going crazy with steps. So
wow.
But we wear a lot of shoes down at those shows. Now, like at EBACE and NBA, we're in the press area. We have our own press room, and usually we're either next door or almost next door to the press conference rooms, and then the main NBA press room. Yeah. So those are a little bit easier. Some companies do have like a press conference at their booth or just static, and we'll deal with that. But it's far less walking than it is at like a Paris or a Farnborough.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So back in the day, a million years ago, people used to submit press releases in the press room on paper in, those little slots. Right. Is that even a thing anymore, or is that just totally passé?
Paris had some of that. I can tell you that I appreciate getting a printed press release. Yeah. People are always welcome to come into our press room. I may not, the editor may not have a lot of time to talk because it is a busy environment. We'll say hi, and we may be able to talk for a minute or two, but then our production manager starts to yell at us and we have to get back to work.
Right.
But I can tell you that just keeping up with, we do a lot of things. So the editor has a copy editor to help edit copy, but it has to go through the editor has to read it first. So the editor is assigning stories, they're coordinating with writers, they are editing copy, and then they're helping to select photos. And then once it gets on the page, then we have to proof it. So we have to reread it again on the page to make sure that it's all there. Sometimes copy gets cut off, because the way the pages are, copy does not always neatly fit on the page. So sometimes it overflows. And even though the headline writer tries to cut, may miss a couple lines, and we have to figure out how to trim a little bit more to get everything back on there. Or they may select they may put a photo in there that's not right, or we may have a better photo, or the caption may not be right. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. So we have all that, and then we have people coming in, and then we also have email to check.
Yeah.
So we're getting all these press releases by email. So and even though we generally on a day-to-day basis operate paperless, it shows we tend to be kind of more paper consuming. So like I said, so I don't know if I said earlier, but we start working on site 2 days before our first publication date.
Right.
So like at Paris, our first publication date was on Monday, so we started working on Saturday. At NBAA or EBACE, our first publication date is Tuesday, so we start working in our press room on Sunday. So usually late the week prior, or even over the weekend, companies will be sending us press releases already. And I'll have usually about so we'll probably have about 60 to 70 press releases before the weekend starts. So what I'll do is I start a day earlier. The editor starts a day earlier than everybody else, so I'll get there on Saturday. In EBACE or NBA, and I will start printing all these press releases out, and then we track them by story number, and then I'll assign it to a writer. I'll put a story number and number of words, and I'll put it on their desk, and they'll have a nice stack waiting for them on Sunday morning when they get there. And so Sunday is a day when we go through press releases. Also, it's a great day for companies who want to do interviews. We can do them by phone, we can do them by Zoom, or if the people are already there, they're certainly welcome to come in. Usually we'll take a headshot if they do that, just so we can have something to run with the story.
Yeah.
So it's a great day for those kind of things, where the companies may not have been ready really that much ahead of time, but now we're on the verge of the show and they have all their ducks in a row, so now they're willing to talk about something. So that is an excellent day for companies looking to get in and have us interview. Once Monday comes around, especially at like EBACE and NBA with a press day, NBA can be 3 to 4 press conferences per hour. At one time it was like 5 press conferences an hour. I think they kind of dialed that back a little bit, and that usually goes from either 8 or 9 in the morning until solidly until like 2 or 3 p.m.
Oh my goodness!
So we don't have a lot of time to do interviews that day. We get a lot of requests, because people are flying in. Now they're available to do in-person conferences, interviews, and we have to tell them no usually because it's just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is the writers will go and do a press conference. So it's an hour press conference. They'll come back. They have another hour before they go to a press conference again. So they have an hour to write up that press conference from before. So they don't have a lot of time to ask questions. So it's important that, if you do a press conference, that you are clear, and that if you have a release with that, usually they do, that it's also has a lot of information in it, because we don't have time to go back and say, oh, hey, what about this or that? So the more information we have, the better stories we can do.
So be complete with the who, what, when, where, why, and how.
Yeah.
Kind of concisely and in a nice package. And how about visuals? Do you want people to include diagrams and photos and other things, even if they're not maybe taken at the show, but graphics or explainers, other kinds
of course.
Of things?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we do like to include images with stories. So we get a lot of product images or things like that. We don't do logos. So we do see companies send logos in, and that just doesn't work for us. It's just not something we do. Sometimes we'll improvise. We'll send a photographer down to a booth and get a booth, like a general booth shot or something like that, just to go with it. We like photos that are here at the show. But we will use company provided photos where we need to. But if you have something on the booth, if you're showing the new product at the booth, we would much rather have either a photo from you of that at the booth, or we do have photographers that we can send down. We usually have, depending on the size of the show, we'll have 1 to 2 photographers. So
nice. Okay.
So
good information. So, if I were exhibiting at a show and I wanted to do my best to get visibility and things like that, it sounds like what I should do is maybe Monday morning or Tuesday morning when the show floor opens, take a picture at my booth, make sure you get it in the press room and things like that. And then if you decide you need to send your photographer or whatever, you can, but you also have the option to just use the one that I took, if that's...
and a lot of this, the signings that people do, it's always a good idea to get. It's okay to invite us. Usually we have a lot of our photographers they usually have a lot of things to do. So we don't I put it on a schedule, but they may not get to it. So if you're doing a signing and you want to send us a photo, send us a photo anyway. If our photographer has it, we'll use his, but if we don't, we'll use yours.
Got it.
So we always appreciate artwork of any kind. It just needs to be print ready. So if it's just a small web image, that's not going to really work for us. Just it works great for the website, but it's not so good for print. So, but that said, I mean, you can use your iPhone. I use my iPhone a lot at the Paris show, and we used a lot of the photos I took at press conferences where the photographer couldn't be in 5 places at once.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's so amazing that everybody is carrying around a super high quality camera nowadays.
Right.
That doesn't, give you the eye, that a photographer would have, but it gives you the technology, maybe that they need.
Right. And a lot of times, it's we're not. We like the beauty photos, but sometimes it's just we want to illustrate something that's there. It doesn't have to be a Pulitzer Prize winning photo. So as long as it suits the purpose, we're good with that. So
okay, that sounds fantastic. Well, we're getting a lot of really great tips from you. I really appreciate the time.
A lot of people think that it's just we cover the large OEMs. Of course, we cover them, but we like I go out of my way to make sure that small and medium companies, we try to make sure we get their news in, because we realize that they may not have the marketing budget of a Gulfstream or a Bombardier. So we try to help them out a little bit, and I'll try to make sure that I assign those to writers to follow up on. It shows, and you don't necessarily need a press release. Like I said, we could do interviews. We do have some capacity to do interviews like on Tuesday and Wednesday. Just don't think you can come into our press room at 3:00 on Wednesday afternoon and say, "Oh, here we have this really cool product." Because
you've never heard of, because we've never talked to you.
Well, that's not the issue. The issue is time at that point. We're Wednesday is our last live work day at NBAA, and our printer deadline's at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So if you work back a couple hours, I need takes about 2 hours from the time that the copy gets edited to go on a page, go through proofing, and get approved.
Yeah.
So that's 4 o'clock. So the writer needs at least an hour, if not more, time to write. So as you're walking in with that press release at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, you're leaving me no room to really get it in, because by that point, we have a lot of stories that are already done that I can just pick up right now and put on the page and get the issue done. Mm-hmm. It would have to be pretty spectacular news for me to be able to get something in at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. So, so earlier is better. If you can't make preprint, try to make midprint. If you can't make midprint, try to get us on like Sunday, or even if you don't have anybody to interview, or don't really see a need to do an interview, but you have a press release, get it to us like Thursday, Friday, the week before.
Okay. Well, that is really good information. So, right. Is there a preference for if you have a person to interview available? That makes a better story, I would think, of course, than if you just release another information. But
like I'll use Dassault as an example at EBACE. They had a press conference. Obviously, they had a press release, and they talked about the 6X certification, and it's coming, and it's
super cool.
But we've been reporting that it's been coming for months, and we know that it's third quarter, give or take, and that there really wasn't any update to that. They're just waiting on the FAA. But their communications director said, "Oh, hey, the flight test pilot's here. Do you want to talk to him?" And so I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course we do." So I sent over a writer, and he just did an interview with the flight test pilot about what it's like, what the program's like, and what they've been doing, and all that. So it gives a lot of extra color that a press release doesn't really do. He's the guy who was doing a lot of these flight tests and driving, all of the program from that aspect. So it was really interesting to have an interview with him, because he was able to provide a lot of information that we don't normally get. The story was, of course, we put the story in print, but it actually was very popular. It was very popular online. Got a lot of hits too. So we don't mind that either. So we like stories that people want to read.
Absolutely. And, we're both on the same side in the sense that we want readers to get good stories. We want them to have the full information. We want it to be informative. We want it to be entertaining. We want it to be good storytelling and all of that. So, we're on the same team. It's just a question of making sure that our workflow fits into your workflow, and, that we can get that done. So
we have a lot of technical writers. Mm-hmm. We have pretty much writers for every little niche or segment. We have an FBO editor, we have a maintenance editor. So we have I mentioned James before. James Winbrink is he's our cabin and completions expert. So we do have I do like to steer certain subjects to certain writers just because they have the expertise. But most of our writers can write just about anything. But but we do have a good breadth of technical knowledge on staff. So even if you think it's too technical as a story, never fear. I'll send our editor-in-chief, Matt Thurber. He gets very technical.
He does
in some of his stories. So we can. Some writers are a little less technical, and some are more. But I try to tailor the writer to the news. So if you have a really technical subject, if you want to talk about cabin connectivity, and you want to talk about all kinds of things that interact, I would definitely send Matt to do that. So
that's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you spending some time and going through this with us. Any famous last words or any other words of advice you'd like to share with marketing?
No, I mean, we're here year round.
Yeah.
The summer months get slow for news, so we're always open to people especially around the holidays and during July and August are always slower with people going on vacation. So we have lots of newsletters and we have magazines to fill. So
and emails and all of that.
Don't just come to us at the show. Don't try to hold news for the show. We're here. We're here year round. So
and summer is fantastic. So yeah.
So we're always willing to listen. To any pitches that people might have, or if you have a press release. I know you've sent a couple over the past couple months, and we try to always pick those up. So
right, I really appreciate your attention to some of the smaller companies, especially, and people that don't have
like I said, year round we try to we do like news from the smaller companies. Everybody gets news from the big companies.
Yeah,
smaller companies tend to get left out, so we try to make sure that they have at least an equal playing field. So
yeah, and that's how they become big companies, and eventually that's what really runs the industry, I think, is, a lot of those smaller companies really taking off and catching fire. And that's the part that's really interesting to me is some of those smaller ones that end up changing the industry. So
yeah, a lot of them have some really innovative ideas. So it's really interesting to see how small companies can make big changes.